Okay, so I told them the questions before, so some of
Okay.
them. So we'll start with how you met. So Grandpa, you can start. Tell anything you want.
Mine's long.
That's
That's
okay, it's
fine.
supposed to be.
We have, this says I can record for 2 hours and 46 minutes.
Oh, let's not do that, dear. Don't go that slow.
I had just come home from the mission field, and they had divided the ward while I was gone. And my mother always had my mother had 6 boys, so she was always with the girls. She taught mutual, she was mutual superintendent or president, she was stake mutual president, and she was regional mutual president for the girls. So it was summer, and she had a bunch of the Gleaner girls over to her house from our ward. So these 2 girls from the ward across the street that divided office came over to visit them when they were at our house. And I was standing on the porch of our house looking out, and I thought, that one's really cute, the one that's kind of shy, because the other one came up to the porch and the other one stood out on the edge of the sidewalk. So then I kind of looked her up and noticed her more, and the next thing I know, we were going together.
Did you ask her out? Do you remember did you call her? What did you do? Go over there?
Let's see. First thing I did is I went with her and a bunch of her girls, and as we were walking along, I reached over and took her hand, and she had a good grip. She didn't let go of my hand all the way down to where we were going and all the way back. So I held her hand the whole way. Couldn't let go. Oh, shame on me. So I told you she was a bit shy. I think she was. Anyway, first time I asked her out someplace, she says, well, yeah, I can't think of anything better to do.
Well, I meant that.
Yes,
I couldn't
in a
think
good
of
way.
anything
Yes, she
better to
meant
do.
that.
But he took it the other way.
She was playing hard to get. That's what she was.
So Grandma, what's your version of that part?
Well, the trouble of it is he didn't know that I already had my eyes on him before I went over there, and that's why I was embarrassed to walk up, because he was on the porch. But his cousin, Cheryl, was one of my best friends, and he came home from his mission, and Cheryl said, come and listen to my cousin. He just got home from his mission. So I went to the other ward with Sharon, and he spoke and reported his mission. And I said to Cheryl, he is really cute. And Cheryl says, he already has a girlfriend. And I said, that doesn't matter. And then it was the next week that I went over to his mom's, and it was a little embarrassing to run up on the porch, because I already said he was really cute. So then I knew he was dating other girls, because we were across the street, and I could see him getting in his car going places, or I knew when he came home from work. So I decided to mow my lawn every day, because if I was mowing the lawn, he could see me. So I had shorts on, and I made sure the lawn was mowed every day. So when he came home from work, I was always out mowing the lawn, so he would walk over and talk to me. So
Did your dad or mom know what you were doing if you're mowing the lawn every day? Did they suspect, your mom and dad?
no, I don't think they cared. I was keeping the lawn green, I was watering it, mowing it, so it was fine. So anyway, finally he asked me out, and I really couldn't think of anything better to do. It was a fun thing to do.
What did you do for your first date? Do you know?
Don't remember. The only one I remember is I asked her to go play tennis with me. And so she went with me, and we played tennis. And we got done, and I took her home and went home, and she called me on the telephone. And she was so embarrassed because she had left her sweater up at the tennis court and wanted me to take her up to go get it. And she was, here again, girls didn't call guys back then.
Yes.
And here she was calling me, but she couldn't do anything else. So she was embarrassed.
So his Grandma Clausen lived in Providence. So one day he called me and he says, I've got to go over to Grandma Clausen's and milk the cow. And do you want to come and meet Grandma Clausen? And so I said, sure. So I went with him and he milked the cows and then he would put the milk in the car, and it was just a little old car. So he said, have you ever driven a car? And I said, no, I've never driven a car. And he says, well, I'll show you how to drive this car. Well, it's a stick shift, you know. Well, I've never even driven a car before. So we've got the milk in the back of the car, and I'm going along, and stop, go, and the milk is spilling in the car.
The milk spilled.
So
Philip was really
when he
upset.
got home, when he
My
finally
brother.
decided he was going to drive instead of me, he got home, and his younger brother Philip had a date, and he went out and the car smelled like milk, and he was so upset that there was milk in the car. So that was a funny time.
Back then we had rubber floor mats. So I went and bought new floor mat for it where the milk had been spilled, so there wasn't any smell. But it took a while for me to go get the new floor mat.
So do you remember when you kissed the first time?
Too
many kisses since then.
I don't remember when
I don't remember that.
Nah,
The
Well,
hand holding
they
was
all
more. The hand holding was more exciting.
yeah.
So did it take very long to decide you wanted to get married?
Let's see. He was going away to dental school. And I'm not sure he decided to, or whether I just said, you're not to go away to dental school and leave me here unless we're engaged. So then I think he decided that's really a good idea. So I was engaged in my senior year. And I think he just decided, well, if she's going to wait for me, if she's not going to wait for me, I'm going to give her a ring. So I had her ring.
So I was working on my doctorate, and she was finishing high school.
Did anyone ever give you a hard time, either one of you, because of the age difference?
Yes. You can't understand unless you lived in a similar situation. But everybody around were my cousins and my relatives. And the Baugh relatives were not hesitant at all to speak their minds. So Aunt Elizabeth kind of gave me the worst time. She had a son almost at my age, just a little younger. And she and I and he, their son, were talking. And Auntie Elizabeth was saying some things that not necessarily were unkind about Grandma, but rather to the point. And her son Durrell said, he says something like, if I had a girlfriend like that, I would really be happy. And his mother never said anything after that.
That's a nice thing. I bet they've all had to eat their words now because you made a good choice.
Yeah. And even now, one of my best friends, if I get out my 50-year reunion book, there's a little spell about everybody. And he starts out by, the best thing about Joe is Beth, 50 years after we graduated from high school. So I lucked out.
Anybody give you a hard time about the fact
No,
that you're
actually, I think my mother liked him better than me. So, she was excited. So I don't think, the only thing I had was some of the boys in high school wanted to take my diamond and see if it really cut glass.
Did you let him?
No, no, I didn't. But I don't think anybody even minded that he was that much older than me.
Was it hard to be apart during that time?
No, we just wrote letters.
Do you have them all still?
No,
No letters?
we
Tossed them.
threw away my mission letter, and my mother saved everything. So we just threw away all my mission letters, all our letters for each other.
Well, hopefully we'll have to get them back someday in heaven. Okay, let's go back in time. Tell me about your favorite things to play with when you were little, or the favorite toy or favorite activity, stuff like that, when you were a little kid. You want to go first, Grandpa?
Sure.
Okay.
I can remember, the first toys I remember were Amos and Andy. I had a black doll and a white doll. I'd pull them around in the wagon. And I didn't know about parents throwing things away by then, but they got pretty battered, and all of a sudden they were gone, and I couldn't find them anymore. I'm sure I wandered through the house looking, but that's the first toys I remember. When I was probably about fourth grade, my father really splurged, and he bought a toy electric train with switches and coal cars that dumped and a coal chute that emptied the coal into the coal cars, and then you'd take them someplace else and they'd actually dump when you push the button and so on. So I had that train, Charlie and I. As years went on, the folks kept that and actually would put it out every year for Christmas. And my other brothers, especially Philip, figured it was his because they put it out for Christmas when he could remember it too. But when it came to dividing the things up from my mother's house, Phil wanted to put the train in with people taking their choice. But the other brother says, no, it's Joe's. So we still have it. And your dad helped me restore it when you were living in Logan. Right. So I have a new transformer, and it still all works pretty well.
You're still playing with toys?
Huh?
You're still playing with your toys after all this time?
Yeah. Then we moved, and I remember walking through town looking at the chemistry sets. One place had them in particular. And oh, I wanted a chemistry set for Christmas. So when I was probably in about the 6th grade or 7th grade, I got a chemistry set for Christmas. And it was fun, fun, fun. Learned a lot of things from it.
That's a really cool toy.
I remember, though, my folks bought me a wristwatch for Christmas one year. And I wasn't too enthused. I wasn't as enthused as they thought I ought to be. But, you know, I didn't really care too much about the time. What's worse, I still don't even wear one. So sometimes I have to ask what time it is. So they were the funnest things I got for Christmas.
Those are really good.
But my folks would usually find some fun toy to buy for us.
Did you play a lot just in the yard and things like that?
Oh yeah, we lived on a yard with a garden in the back and long lot, trees to climb, plum trees, pear trees, and we watered the garden with running water, irrigation water, so it was rather fun. Yeah.
Okay, Grandma, what do you have? Your turn.
My turn. My favorite toys were dolls. I had dolls and dolls and dolls, and my dad made all the doll furniture, like the cupboard, and the beds, and Mother made all the quilts and the doll clothes, and I had to put them to bed every night and make sure they were in bed and covered up. But I love dolls. But you know, I didn't realize that Mom and Dad did that until we moved to Logan, and our upstairs had a see-through thing. Can you remember that?
I think I did once.
A vent.
Anyway, it had a see-through thing where the heat came in because we didn't have any heat. So the first Christmas we were there, I was in the 4th grade, 5th grade, and Joanne and I were watching through this hole, and that's when we saw Mom and Dad take all the doll furniture and all the dolls and put by the tree, and we realized that they had made them. And before that, I didn't even know that. So that was in the 4th grade. But I love dolls. But I also love jacks. jacks and balls. I mean, I would sit in the kitchen, I would go outside, I would be anywhere playing jacks. And when we went to Hawaii, I taught Eleanor, only we didn't have jacks and balls, so she used rocks. But she did really well with rocks. She'd pick them up and then she'd catch the rock. And so I lived in roller skates. I put them on in the morning. I ate breakfast in them. I went everywhere in roller skates. I had them on all the time. And in the winter, it was ice skates. As soon as I got home from school, we took our ice skates and went up to the rink and went ice skating. Freezing.
Was it free to go skating? Did
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to pay? Oh, cool.
Up at the park?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was just free.
It's the park just down from the temple.
The Merlin Olsen, they call it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Free.
That you have the painting of.
And they had a berm of dirt all the way around it, and they'd take the fire hoses to the fire hydrants
Sharon
and
has
spray it. Yeah. Did you skate up there?
Yeah, they don't do it anymore as far as I know. But
I
when I
know.
was there little, we have films of us going on there. It was really neat. I don't think if they did it the same way that they did it for you with the fire hoses. I never watched them make it, but.
Well,
I
they'd
loved
spray it late after everybody went home. They'd go out and spray it, so it would freeze in the early morning cold hours.
So cool.
We spent a lot of hours up there. We spent a lot of hours up
I
there.
skated there sometimes too, but I think I spent more in the warm house than I ever did out on the ice.
So the games we used to play any eye over all the time. I mean, we'd play that till I'd get tired of watching that ball come down the roof. They don't play any eye over because you can't. There's not a house that just goes over like that. So, but we played that for hours, any eye over. That was fun. We played kick the can. You played kick the can. All those games. And kids don't play those now because they've got things they can do with their hands instead of running outside and play. But we were outside. That was one nice thing is our freedom, because we were outside all the time. We were outside all day. We would eat supper and we'd go out again and we'd play until it was dark. Our parents didn't know where we were. I think they knew we were safe. And so it was, you look back and you think that was really fun, because nobody knew that we were down at a farm, walking along the ditch bank, and we would go along the ditch bank and bring home watercress to eat. I still like watercress, but it was just nice to be free, do what you want to do, go where you wanted to go. My friends and I goofed off a lot.
Such a fun thing. I didn't ask this before when I called you, but I was wondering what you would say that you liked about your home and like the way your parents raised you when you're growing up. Was there certain things that you think, I'm really glad my parents raised me this way, or that our home was a certain way? Can you think of anything like that? I didn't call ahead and ask you that one. I'm just wondering what you liked about the way your parents raised you. You go first, Grandpa.
Trying to think.
Yeah, you can take your time.
I was the oldest, so I guess I got the trial and error that every parents have. But Charlie was close behind. But I liked being home. I liked my parents. They were always good to me. And I just had 5 other brothers coming along. So there was times when we had a lot of people there, and the first one doesn't get all the attention anymore. So, but I liked them. I liked where we lived. I liked my folks. They were pretty wonderful.
Well, when I was little, all I can remember about my parents is they were always working, always working. When we lived in Richfield, we had chickens and cows and all that. And Mother was always doing something. I can remember we always had little baby chickens in the oven because they had to keep warm or they would die. So we'd have chickens in the oven, and then we would be cleaning eggs because we had all these eggs we had to clean. Grandpa even made an egg cleaner, an automatic one, so we wouldn't have to wash each one of them. And we had billy goats, and I had a lamb. He was all white, except he had all his feet were black, so I named him Boots. Actually, that's how I get on my computer now. Boots. Yeah, that's my password. Anyway, so I had Boots, and the poor thing just got mauled because I just loved that lamb. But that's what I can remember about my parents is I was just there playing, and my parents were always working. My dad was always working at a theater, so
Yeah.
it was. And even when we moved to Logan, my mother had to get a job, so she was gone working, and my dad was working. He'd worked late at night, and so Dad was just kind of there, and he just kind of worked. But you know, Dad made puzzles for us all the time, and they treated us nice. I was the youngest one. I think I was just there. That's how I felt most of the time. I was just there. And they didn't pay attention to me like they did Grant. Grant was, you know, the superstar. He was their only boy, so I figured, okay, well, Grant's the superstar and I'm just here. But they were good parents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did either one of you?
They were good cooks. Mother was a good cook, and Grandma Baugh was a good cook.
Did you remember ever a time when you got in trouble by your parents?
Oh yeah.
What happened? What, do you think of a specific time? Or how did they discipline you when you got in trouble?
Spank us.
Thank you.
Yep.
I can't ever remember being spanked.
Did you ever get in trouble?
The one time I think I got in trouble was when my sister Joanne got hurt, and Mother told me to go upstairs and give her a sleeping pill. And I went up and she was asleep, and I woke her up and gave her a sleeping pill. And my mother was very angry. She said she was asleep, she didn't need a sleeping pill. But I was ordered to give her a sleeping pill, so I did. So
That's really good.
that's the only time I can remember my mother I can't remember my mother ever getting mad. Or my dad either. My dad was very mellow. Just, you know, I don't think I ever got spanked.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's good. You passed that down. My mom's pretty mellow too. Okay, I asked you guys before if you had any embarrassing moments. Do you think of anything like that?
Any what?
Embarrassing moments that you've had in your life, something that was funny or embarrassing that you can think of. I think I told you on the phone, but I don't know if you heard me. If I said it, something silly or embarrassing that happened.
Well, let's see. Once we were camping with the family, and Cindy was just newly married to Carrie. And we were down south, and it got very, very warm. And so I took a hold of my sweater and took it off, but I took everything off. That was really embarrassing. I think it was more embarrassing for Carrie because, you know, he just wasn't part of the family. They were just married, and I just, you know, like this. So that was one of my most embarrassing moments, I think. The other time was we were on a trip, and we were in a big hurry. We had to run between airplanes. And so I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And so I ran in this bathroom, and I went in, and I went to the bathroom, and I came out, and here all these urinals were. I was in the men's bathroom, so I didn't even wash my hands. I just flew out of there as fast as I could. So those were the two times that I was really embarrassed.
Those are good ones, Grandma.
Honey, were you ever embarrassed?
Was I
I
embarrassed?
can't picture you embarrassed, Grandpa.
Huh?
I can't picture you being embarrassed.
Yeah, I've been embarrassed. I was embarrassed all my growing up life. But going on what you asked before, though, about getting in trouble,
Oh yeah.
I'll tell about the time I took. There was a store by every school back then, a little shop where the kids could get candy and stuff. I think the guy lived on the money. He sold stuff to the kids, but I never had any money. So up in the cupboard they had a little dish with money in it, change. And so one time I thought, I'm going to take a nickel and buy a candy bar at recess. So I picked up the nickel and put it in my pocket and didn't ask or tell, and went to school that day. And at recess, I went over to the store and bought a Powerhouse candy bar. And I opened it and was enjoying it immensely, walking down the street to get back to the school. And my dad, who was a plumber, happened to be out on a call and drove by and saw me eating a candy bar. And I was in trouble. So he asked me how I got the candy bar. And I told him I found a nickel and lied about it besides. And that was the time I knew I was in trouble when I got home. I wasn't spanked, but they grilled me. And after that, I decided crime doesn't pay. I found out that some of my brothers had the same experience too in their lives, so I wasn't the only bad boy in the family.
That's a pretty good story.
Grandpa, I remember you telling that story, but I like, can you tell just quickly, I feel like the lesson you learned from that is that when anyone wanted something, you'd give it, right?
Oh,
What was it? Can't remember.
it's hard to be tempted when you're young, and people succumb to the temptation, and everybody does something like that. But the moments are embarrassing, like somebody stealing something and your parent makes you take it back. That's very embarrassing. So with my kids, I just told them, I said, if you want something, come and tell me and we'll get it. I didn't want them to grow up with guilt feelings about that. So I said, if you want something, just come tell us, we'll buy it for you. I don't know whether we would have, but at least they knew that they didn't have to get it by stealing. If they really wanted it, they could come and ask for it. And it was, maybe I should have let them go through the experience, but you know, it's like when the stores used to close on Sunday, people didn't shop on Sunday. There wasn't any place to go. So a lot of people didn't have to feel guilty on Sunday when they're cooking and all of a sudden they need something at the grocery store. And you go to the grocery store and you think, you know, you look around and think, oh, all these Gentile people in here. And probably some of them are like you, people who just shop on Sunday.
So anyway, that was Grandpa's rule because I was different. Grandpa would come home, my dad would come home because he was tired and he'd lay on the sofa. And we could hardly wait until he left because we knew the money fell out of his pockets into the sofa. So, and you know, I didn't think like he thought. I didn't think, oh, I'm stealing this money. It was my dad's and it was his pocket. We just thought, yay, you know, he's left all this money. And so Joanne and I would just go through the sofa and find the money. And once we went and bought 2 sodas each. We bought one soda we liked, and then we bought the favorite one. So we drank the first one, and then we were too full to drink the second one. So we learned not to be too selfish. But so when Dad had that rule, you know, that the kids, if the kids want money, I never figured I was stealing when I took the money at Dad's pocket, and he never said, I lost money out of my pocket, where did it go? So that was the difference between how we were raised.
Yeah.
Got to realize we were paying $10 a month for our little apartment in this house back then. So that's how
That makes a lot.
how much money was worth then.
Yeah, really. Okay, what other questions did I ask you guys? Let me think what I said before. Oh, I wanted to hear some favorite memories about trips you've been on, either just with each other or with your friends or with your family when they were growing up. Just some of the highlights of the trips that you guys have done. You want to start, Grandma? You can start this time. We'll give Grandpa a break for a minute. Or you can start, Grandpa. I don't care.
We have been on a lot of trips and been almost everywhere I can think of. Probably some of the things I can really remember is Norway is one of the prettiest places to go. It's just, you know, breathtaking. But the night we were on the boat watching the sun, was it the sun?
Yeah.
and we were watching the sun, and it was the midnight sun that never goes down. So we were sitting there, and the moon just went like this, but then it just came back up. It never
sun.
went down.
Yeah.
It was always in the sky, and I just thought that was so amazing. And just, I don't know, there's just been so many. Alaska is beautiful too. Watching those big ice things fall off, it was just amazing. I think what really amazes me as I look back or as I think of all those favorite things is how beautiful the earth is. I mean, there's just no place we've been that hasn't just, been breathtaking. It's been a good thing to do. I only have, the regret is that there's 2 places we really want to go that we didn't go, and that's Grandpa really wanted to go to the Antarctic, and we never made that trip, and he wanted to go on a safari, and we never made that trip, and I'm thinking, I don't think we'll ever make those trips, but that's 2 trips that we didn't take, but the rest of them were so beautiful. It's too bad that the world's so beautiful and there's so much bad in it, because if all the bad was gone, you could just enjoy all that beauty.
Maybe someday.
Well, where Grandpa's favorite places were they?
Yeah.
What do you
Where?
Yeah, your turn.
Oh, the funnest thing we probably ever did was take our families. We used to go to Yellowstone every year, and Beth got so she could pack for 6 of us in the back of the car. We had a station wagon. She'd lay the seats down and put the sleeping bags out. She could bring a tent, sleeping bags for everybody, air mattresses,
But we had that top thing.
stove, a lantern, heater for the tent, all our clothes, and we'd go with other people sometimes, and they'd say, "How do your kids look clean all the time?" And she just packed clothes, and they stayed clean. But we went all over the western United States that way and had a lot of fun. And the kids would stop about this time of the year, a little earlier, and say, "Where should we go this year?" And somebody would say, "Yellowstone." And then somebody else would say, "We go there anyway, let's pick some other place." So that was right. We always went to Yellowstone. Scariest time was when I was driving and stopped early in the year and looked down, and there was a bear there, and he rose up in one stroke, came up, took his paw, and my window was down about that much, took a swipe through the window, dropped down and wandered off. And I was sitting there and I just bent over like this so he couldn't reach me. But that was scary.
But there used to be a lot of bears. Like one time Susan counted 33 bears as we drove around. She counted 33 bears. So it's different.
Yes,
it was
yeah.
different then.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had to go, we had to take the kids to shower, and we had 2 boys and 2 girls. So he would take the boys, I'd take the girls, and you had to put money in. So you had to really work fast to shower 3 people per quarter. Sometimes you had to put another quarter in because you weren't quite rinsed off. But the girls can remember doing that. They thought that was so fun. But it was kind of camping, but rough. It was fun. But the trip, I think, the cruise Grandpa talks about the most is when we took the family, our grandkids, when we took all of you. That was one of the funnest cruises we've ever been on. And he still talks about the little girls out on the floor dancing.
You were leading the line, do you remember?
Yeah.
We were in the front of the boat, and we were sitting there with Rachel. She didn't want to go dancing, and you were out there leading this line, and pretty soon we got Rachel to go. And you were having a ball, and I turned to Mom and I says, "This is worth the price of the whole cruise." And the little girl was sitting by us. She was just itching. She was just like this. She wanted to get out on that floor so badly. So we finally talked her to going out and getting on the end of the line. But it was one of the funnest times I can think.
It was. And we shared the room with two of Kent's boys. I think they're twins.
I didn't know
And
that.
that night, on one of the nights, they wanted to go up and get a treat. They were in bed, and we said sure. So we went out and pushed the elevator button, and when it opened, Kent and Steph were there. I think that was the trip that Patrick got burned. Some kid was. Anyway, that was a fun trip. It's funner with your family.
That was
It
good
is.
for us too, huh?
On the second one, you had so many games for everybody to play. Fun games.
Yeah, that was fun, the second one. That was so fun. We still think about that because we had all Mark's kids and everybody would always just get together and play games for the longest time.
Longest
on the
time.
boat. That was
But you
fun.
had such good games, different games.
Yeah,
I've even forgot what they all were, but
yeah, those were fun.
everybody had fun.
That's when we took our kids to Alaska. Your mother was so funny because I don't know whether you can remember when your kids were little, but your mother used to go out to eat, and she always used to wait until you kids had eaten whatever you wanted to eat, and then she ate it. So we just laughed and laughed when we found her down on the deck with a pile of hot French fries, and she said, "They are so good when they're hot." And I think she did it every day. She went down and got this pile of hot French fries and ate them by herself.
That's a big indulgence from my mom, for sure.
Yes. So
really
that was fun, taking them.
Those were
Yeah.
so fun for us. Those were
I
good.
was homesick for that cruise when we were kids for weeks after that. A literal homesick
Yeah,
feeling.
you
Every
get
time I
really
think
sad.
the cruise, I was just so sad that we weren't on that cruise. It was it was the funnest time of my whole entire childhood. Oh, it was so fun.
It was pretty unreal.
It was unreal.
Yeah, it really
Was.
was.
It was.
And that other cruise when we were older, I remember Fernando, or who was it? Oh, I think Fernando went up and tried to hold Shannon's hand because he thought she was me. We always laugh about that too.
That was fun too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to hear your parenting advice that you would give to all of us that are going to be parenting and parenting. And even when Miranda's a parent, she can look at this, so you give us your advice.
Okay, before I do that, let me tell you something else.
Okay, tell
I'm
me
just
anything you want.
no. I'm just going to tell you that all the time we were in school in St. Louis, we didn't have any money, and but we were so happy and we had so much fun, and sometimes we would look like once we had a quarter that wasn't enough to go to a show, and so we asked the neighbor if we could borrow a quarter to go to the show. And he said, yes, if you'll let me go and drive you, because we didn't have a car. So he went and he drove us. We talk about that all the time because we didn't have any money. Once we looked through all the drawers to find 10 cents so we could walk to the corner drugstore and buy one ice cream cone and share it. But we look back at that and how we are now, and we were just as happy then, which makes you realize that money doesn't really make you happy, because you can look back and we didn't have anything. We were so darn poor, and yet we were so happy. So I think you don't really need money, and you don't need all this fancy things. You can look for pennies and quarters, and you can still be happy in life. So now, I can go buy whatever I want, but I don't. But I don't. Usually what I do is go buy for my grandkids or something instead of me. But it was fun. I think it was really fun.
Except my brother Philip, who went to dental school in St. Louis too, we would tell him how we lived there, and his wife would say, people just don't live like that anymore.
No, they don't. In fact, we didn't have a washing machine. We didn't have a washing machine. So what we did is there was a big room where people left their washing machine, and we realized there was one that wasn't being used very often. So Dad says, well, if you wait till everybody in the building's gone to work, you can use that one. So we didn't even have a washing machine, We would use that one, and then I'd take the clothes and hang them outside. And I thought, man, we were really poor.
My mom has good memories of it too. The kids didn't feel sad either. And that's how do you? I think that's one of the questions I would have is like, I feel like you guys are always have always been able to find happiness all the whole time, and I wonder what the secret to that is. Because a lot of people are not happy.
But my generation, you didn't know you were poor because everybody was poor. There wouldn't be very many people in a city that were rich, and your neighbors were just like you.
Yeah.
When you look at people today and living in old parts of the city, I wonder, who lives in those old houses where they little square house with 2 bedrooms and these are up by the university, and you think, people just didn't have a lot of stuff back then.
Yeah.
Closets in the house now are just full of clothes, and back then they'd build a house, and if they built a closet 3 feet deep, why, that took up a lot of room. There just weren't very many closets and no place to hang your clothes. People didn't have that many clothes.
Yeah.
Just like the little old garages you see every once in a while that were built way back then, and you think, my criminy, I wouldn't dare drive big wide car in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Advice we would give who? Our
Yeah.
family?
Yeah, you can do just general advice, or I was thinking if you want to start, you can tell about parenting advice or marriage advice or whatever you like, because you have all advice you have is better than what we all have because you've done it better and you've done it longer.
No, we didn't. But I think one important thing that I think I wrote down on the pad is that you make sure that you and your husband are on the same side raising kids, and that you don't end up with mom said I could or dad said I could. They've got to know, if dad said I could, mom will let me. And if mom said I could, dad will let me, because you're working together. And there were a few times when we weren't together, like, one of the kids did something and I would let him do it, and dad would say, why did you let him do it? Like when I let Cindy, drive and take friends, that's when she had her first accident, and the first thing dad said is, why did you let her do it? Why? And I thought, well, I should have called him, but you don't think you have to call your husband all the time and say, is it all right if I let the kids take the car? Is it all right if I let them do this? So you don't. So that's when you end up in trouble, because something happens. I mean, your mother wasn't hurt, but she wrecked the car. And then I felt like it was my fault. So I think it's important that you work together. I think it's important too that you laugh and have fun, and the kids know that there's funny times. And I think it's nice to apologize. Tell your kids, I made a mistake. Sorry, because sometimes I think they're the only ones that make a mistake. And I think the other thing is to laugh at them when they do things that you could get upset with. Just laugh. Go get your camera and take a picture of it or something, but don't make them feel like if they do something bad or something that they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I'm sure our kids thought they were in a lot of... Poor Susan, she's the one that was in the trouble the most. And you always have one. You're going to have one, that's going to pull your strings. And, just love them. Well, all you can do is love them.
What do you think, Grandpa?
Oh, it's like when we moved to Murray, and the neighbor, we told her, Susan's are a rough one. And she says, my hardest one raising, she says, now she says she's the most loving of all my kids. The one they had the most trouble raising. So I took courage from that, and Susan's a very loving girl. Oh, shouldn't say names, should we?
Yeah, you can.
Probably not. No. And I think the other thing is to not compare. And that was when I was little, Joanne excelled in school and everything. And if she excelled, Mother expected me to excel, because Joanne did it well. And I think we had that trouble a little bit with Susan, and I felt sorry for Susan because I knew how she felt. Because Kent, and I'm saying names, because Kent and Cindy just did so well in school. I mean, they excelled in everything. And I don't think it's that Susan couldn't. I think it was hard for her to compete, because she knew that they were doing well and she was supposed to do
It's
well.
overwhelming.
And then we got to Mark and he just kind of thought, I'm not even going to try. So that's why it's funny he's a professor, because he had the attitude of, I ain't going to try. So we had, you know, it's hard when you've got the first or the second one are very, very smart and very nice. I mean, Kent and Cindy were just always nice to each other. I don't think they ever got in a fight or they ever were mean to each other. And then you have more and you find there's a little trouble, you know, with personalities and a little hard to know how to handle them. But Mark was always the little meek peacemaker, you know, don't anybody do anything or I'm going to cry. And he's still that way. I don't know. Anyway, he's still a sweetheart. But and then we had Alan, and everybody spoiled Alan. Your mother spoiled him so badly. She carried him around on her hip everywhere she went. And then when he was about 3 years old, she said, Mom, he's really spoiled. And I thought, yeah, and who spoiled him? She did. So he was spoiled all the time. We had to laugh at him because we would send him to the store and give him $20. He never gave us the change back. I don't know how much it cost, but he liked money. Anyway, it just...
Spoiled days still turned out really good.
And I think one of the big things now is mothers and dads have to be careful that they're not busy. I mean, they're not on their cell phone, or they're not on their computer, or they're not doing something, and the kids don't get the attention that they should. But I think yours all do get the attention that they need. But it's hard. Any advice?
Nope.
Okay, Patrick, what other questions do I have?
Let me check really quick, make sure that the volumes, the
I think
sound is-
another thing that I kind of wrote down is your church callings. You know, when you have church callings, of course you're in the choir. Anyway, when you have church callings, this is what I've learned from church callings is when you have a calling, do your calling, and if you ask somebody else to help you and do their calling, let them do it. Instead of saying, that's not how I want it done, that's not what I expected, just let them do it and tell them thank you. Because I think that's so important, because I think that's how you learn to be a good leader, by being a good follower and doing what you're supposed to do. And then there's some that have their way, or change everything. They want to change everything. Nothing's good enough. They have to change everything. And I've worked with people like that in the church, and I've thought, oh, I don't want to be like that. That's what I always learn. I want to be like that, or I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing. We were even talking about that the other day, about some of the, like we were saying how Brother Holland, when he gives talks, it's so to us. And yet some of them are not. Some of them are just lectured. So I think you have to learn how to be in the church. You have to put up with all kinds of people. You know that, Sharon.
Yeah, we all know.
And you just have to love them. And the same with friends. When we go with our friends, some of the friends are easy to go with. Some of them are really difficult. But you just learn that, okay, this is the way he is. This is the way Bill Dunn is, so don't try to change him. We'll just do it his way, and that'll be fine. And then you go with people like we go with the Taylors, they'll do anything. Anything we tell them to, any dumb thing. I mean, they're just right there with us doing dumb things. And so even that you learn, okay, that's the kind of friend to be.
Yeah.
Go along and have fun with them. And don't say, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, life is fun.
I was going to ask you how, Grandpa, you too, but I was going to ask you, but how do you always stay calm about everything and don't stress out? Because I think that stressing out is a pretty common thing to do, and I don't notice that you do it very much.
You got to raise your kids so that they're going to be okay when they're independent. So you have to let them make a lot of decisions. So sometimes they're going to make good decisions, and sometimes they're going to make bad decisions. But they won't find out the bad decision is a bad one unless they carry it out and see what happens. And it's awfully hard for somebody who's been in that same place before not to reach out and take it away. But you can't let them make all kinds of dumb, stupid things, like putting your hand on a hot stove. So it's hard for a parent to decide what you can let the kids do and what you can't. But they have to learn to fail sometimes. And part of our problem nowadays is nobody fails in school. Like they had the little boy on TV last night who talked in class when the teacher told him he'd be quiet. And she's been teaching 20 years, and the boy took a selfie of himself with a piece of duct tape over his mouth. And she took it over to him and says, "Put this on your mouth." So he did. Sent a selfie home to his mother. Well, his mother's all outraged. It's on TV. They're wondering how to censure the teacher now. So what did the boy learn from doing it? You know, if I tell my mama or if I do this, then I'm all right and she's all wrong. And the boy was wrong. He should have just learned his lesson. I'm sure his mother should have let him learn a lesson. And now it's a federal case because she put a piece of duct tape on the kid. Boy, back when we went to school, kids that got hit with a ruler and stuff like that, nowadays wouldn't have anybody teach them. They'd lock them all up in jail. Yeah. And kids don't learn things, so you have to let them fail sometimes. And you have to teach them, that there's people who have to do what they want. And you have to do what they want once in a while, instead of all me.
Yeah. But you don't ever worry, Grandpa, do you? I never noticed that you worry.
I don't worry.
Why?
Because there's just not many things you can get out of. You can get out of almost anything. So I don't worry about it. When you're going some way and you go the other way, I can do that. I can go the wrong way for a while. And then you get there and they say, "Oh, we should have gone the other way." That's okay. I can walk back with you. It's just, nothing's a big deal. It really isn't. Just.
Were you always like that, or did you learn to be like
No,
that?
Oh, no, I learned to be
He's
like
always
that.
been like that. He's always been like that. In fact, I always say to him, when I'm having difficulties, I always say, "Okay, you got to realize you're perfect, I'm not."
No.
Because he's always been that way, and sometimes I think I can't be that way. So, but he's always been really calm, and he always says there's nothing you can do about it.
I always kind of wonder why the other person's doing what they're doing. But, when you're smarter or more experienced or something like that than somebody that you're with, then it's a little hard. It's like traveling with the 6 people that we traveled with. Sometimes I just let the guys do things that I think, "Oh no, we don't want to do this." The guys like to kind of show that they can bargain or they can find their way or something like that. And I've been through lots of alleys and places where I wouldn't have gone because these guys got sold a bill of goods. And I just, so I go with them. Doesn't hurt.
And so if you ask your mother,
Yeah.
they've, in all their life, living with their dad, they've heard him swear once. And that's when we were on a trip, and he had a watch. Maybe that's why he doesn't wear a watch. Anyway, he had a watch on, a big watch. A bee got underneath him and stung him twice. And he said a swear word. And the kids looked at him like, "That was my dad. Did you hear what he said?" That's the only swear word I've ever heard him say in 64 years. is one swear word. So, and that's not what you can say about me.
I've only heard you say one, but it's only about a color, so I never count it, Grandma.
You never count it.
No, I never count it. I've only heard you say one.
Well, I'm not that good.
You know, anyway, so he's been easy to live with.
Yeah, you both have a lot of peacefulness.
I take
about
him
you.
shopping now with me to Christopher and Banks. They love it when he comes in. They do. The ladies say, "Oh, he's going to let you buy anything you want, isn't he?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, they said, "Oh, has he always done that?" I said, "Yes." He's just always said, "Whatever you want, buy it. Whatever you want, buy it." And I think that's because he knows I won't. So he trusts me. But anyway, he's always been that way. So he hasn't been quite that way with Alan, but we were a little worried about Alan wanting to buy things. So anyway, life is good.
So have you always had? Would you say that it's always been an easy marriage, or did you ever have to work at it like everybody else? What were your good marriage advice? Just laugh. Grandma said laugh, right? I think you have just a great marriage.
We do. That's what I was thinking. There's not been. I can't remember. I just can't remember any time that we've really been upset with each other. Yes, once I was upset with Grandpa, but that's kind of in 64 years.
That's not bad.
We went to California, and his driver's license ran out, and I had to drive in California, and the traffic was so horrible, and I was so mad at it. I said, if you knew you were going to California, why did you let your license run out? And that's the only time I think that I've really been upset with him, because that was really scary for me. I thought for sure I was going to kill everybody.
That's pretty good, Grandpa.
But we've never had any reason to really be mad at each other. Which is,
She was pretty angry. She was the only driver in the car. It was me and her and Alan.
That's a pretty good story.
And I gave them a license, when you sign in. And they said, "It's expired." I says, "What do you mean?" Anyway, she did all right. But she was angry.
I was.
Okay, so what would you say? I think I asked Grandma this on the paper, but if you had to say that you wanted to leave a legacy for all of us, to say this is what you taught us, or this is what you were all about, can you sum that up? Would you have any words that you would say, like, this is my legacy that I want to leave to my family, sort of thing?
Mostly is, when you're planning a family or having a family, you don't get to pick and choose. You take what God gives you. And each one's a different personality. Each one's, some are harder than others. Some are easy as easy. Like I see Emmett, he seems so mellow. And I look at him and I think, gosh, there's a kid that doesn't bother anybody. And then we have others that are yelling and screaming. And I don't think it's the parents all the time. It's just the kids. So it's hard to take credit for what you got, because you have got what they gave you. And I don't think you could really change people too much. You can't beat kids into submission. And then again, you don't want them to think that anything goes, like we're getting now. So you still have to do the best with what you got, and that's about it. You make mistakes with the first one that you won't make with the last one, and everybody gets more mellow, thank goodness, unless you're like, who was it, Jay Lavoie Sorensen?
Oh, yeah.
And he was never really nice to his kids, according to his wife's book, which is interesting. Let Mom read a couple of things in it for you. Anyway, it's nice to work together and have the same goals. And you both have to be teachable so that you can learn. And it's nice when you can see each other's views. Since I didn't have any sisters, everything that my wife did was pretty much unexpected because I didn't know anything about girls. And so I'm still in awe about what she does. She's a good girl and I love her. Always have.
Anyway, I think it's important too. I think it's important that you read the scriptures and say the prayers. And I know those are the pat answers. They're the answers that you give in seminary. What do? We read the scriptures, we say our prayers. We're nice to each other. But whenever Grandpa and I read the scriptures, and we started reading them, and we read them over and over and over and over, and finally we decided, well, let's look for different things. So we would look for bad guys who turn good, or we would look for, something different in the scriptures. And another thing we've always done, and I felt really comfortable with that, is if I don't understand something or if I don't agree with them, we talk about it, and we make sure that that our understanding of the gospel is like it's supposed to be, because I always say to him, I'm kind of in the state right now as if God loves me, why is he doing this? So Grandpa has to explain to me, it's the plan, that's the plan, that we get old. And I don't like that plan. Let me tell you right now, this is not the fun part of life. So when you get there, you'll think, oh, wait a minute, this isn't fun. And that's one of my regrets, is that I didn't understand what my mother and dad were going through, or Joe's mother and dad, when they were old and not well. We would run and see them. How are you, Mom and Dad? Fine, fine. But we really didn't understand that it's really hard. And I was reading in the scriptures, or I was reading a book, and I read it to Grandpa. And it said, we all feel like we need to know the pain that Jesus went through. But it says, you won't feel that pain unless you're sharing the pain with someone else. In other words, he has the pain, I'm sharing it. And that's when you really realize what pain is. So I just think that understanding the scriptures and praying about it is, I think that's really important to leave your children and our children, is that that answers so many problems. And we just have to know that that God's there, and we can't be like me sometimes and say, where is he? Where is he now? We have to know that he's always there. And in fact, the book I'm reading, and this is from Psalms. It's in Psalms. It says, even if I went to hell, God would hold my hand. And I think we have to realize that even if we're going to lose Grandpa, God still loves us. But it's really, really hard because we go on with life and we don't want to lose people. We don't want things to change. But I think that's part of being a family, that we're going to be together. I mean, I know when I'm in heaven, I'm going to be Sharon. I'm going to see Sharon again. I'm going to see Patrick again. I think this is one of the greatest blessings we have. And that's kind of what I'd like to hand down to your kids and to everybody, that if you make a mistake, don't leave the church. Don't say, I made a mistake, I'm leaving, because we want you. Everybody loves you and everybody wants you. And I think that's so important that everybody knows that. And I think that's what I would leave with you. I'd leave how much we love you. I don't know whether you'll ever know how much we love you, but we do.
Very good.
Else, you got anything?
I was gonna say, because we've been talking a lot about family, which I think is obviously the most important thing to everybody, but I was just interested in Grandpa from maybe a more man's perspective. You were involved in the war, and also your career and everything like that, and it would be interesting. I think people are gonna say this is a very successful person. Our great-great-grandpa Baugh, or our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa Baugh was a very successful person. So the two questions I'd have was, one would be, what were there any defining moments in your life? Any defining moments? And then two, kind of how did you become successful? So maybe some defining moments, and then maybe how you made sure that you were successful or what you did. So. And you can take some time to think about it. We're not on a
I have to use the bathroom, but you can keep going while I'm gone.
yeah.
I don't know why I wanted to be something different. My uncles who were plumbers says, oh, you need a trade. Get you a trade. Trade is like electrician or plumber or a carpenter or something like that. But I enjoyed school. I did well at school. And so what I did is I just kept going to school. While I was going, I told you I liked chemistry and stuff like that, and I thought, well, I'll be a chemical engineer. But I was sent on a mission for 2.5 years, and I decided I'd like to be a dentist, I thought. So I came back and went to dental school. And then after 8 years, 2 in the Army and 6 in Brigham City, I decided I wanted to be an orthodontist. So I got into a program and got a degree with orthodontics. And I loved that. I liked it better than dentistry. It seemed to fit me better. And when I say fit, it's nice when a job fits you. You feel like your talents are working good and you know what you're doing, probably more than anything else. So I enjoyed that. And I've enjoyed all my whole life learning and all the things I've done. And as far as working out all right, it always has. And I've been able to, help my kids and my grandkids with their lives too and what they wanted to do and become what they wanted to. And all of them seem to do real well. We got kids who graduate from college, and I'm amazed at how many have masters now in the family. And I think that's pretty darn wonderful, because like, your family, they all got masters. You and Jason and Fernando. I think that's, and Sharon. That's pretty darn good. So I think they've all done well. It's nice to move up a little. My dad always felt like he was not as good as all the professors around at Utah State, but he was a good man and I love him. He wasn't academic like they were, but he was a good father and a good plumber, and he did real well. So I don't know in life what carries you one way or the other, but lots of times it's chance. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's the Lord that might nudge you or give you the opportunity or something like that. So I think, if you think about it and do the things you can, follow your choices, and not be set on the wrong things in life, I think you can do well. There are a lot of people who want to be a lot more than what they are, and I don't know whether they always get to be that way, but I don't mind not being famous or anything like that. I enjoy the life I've led. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. I don't have anything else unless you guys have anything else you want to say.
No,
or
he
haven't
just,
been able to say.
you ought to tell him your view of heaven, what you told everybody when you tell them
What?
about the groups in heaven when you get there.
Oh,
This is funny. What he says.
I told people when I get to heaven, there's going to be a great big bunch of people in the center of heaven, and they're all saying hi, and do I know you, and stuff like that. And over in the corner, there's going to be a small group of people like me on President Hinckley. They'll be laughing, making jokes, and having a good time, and not taking everything about where they are and what they're doing so seriously. They'll still be having a good time instead of worrying about what they're where they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to be doing. So I think that's fine. That's the kind of heaven I'd like, where I can be jolly and happy.